Ken, are they finished in the other room? Were they done when you left? I texted him. I haven't. All right, we're going to go ahead and get this session started. And as the participants from the other parallel session begin to make their way over to this room, our final named lecture this year is the Henry Laws Lecture, again, named after a former president of the Southeast Surgical Congress and recipient of the Distinguished Service Medal. Over the course of his lengthy career, Dr. Laws experienced every manifestation of surgical practice. Private practice in rural Mississippi. He was a faculty member at the University of Alabama, residency director at Caraway Methodist Medical Center, and in the waning days of his career, a general surgeon at the Norwood Clinic. When I went about selecting those individuals who would deliver these named lectures, I did it in a somewhat backwards way. I selected the people that I knew I wanted to talk at this meeting, and then I sort of backed them in to the named lectures. And given Dr. Law's career trajectory in both private and academic practice, I think that plugging my friend Dr. Timothy Patselis into this particular lecture was ordained. Tim has been an active member and supporter of this meeting for longer than me, and more than anyone, represents a bridge between the original iteration of the Southeast Surgical Congress and its current state, going from practicing general surgeons in the South to an outlet for residents, fellows, and young academic surgeons to cut their teeth in this world. I met Dr. Patselis at this meeting in 2012 when it was held in Jacksonville, Florida. Over the course of the next 14 years, he has become my best friend in North Carolina and a surrogate brother. Our friendship has led us to enjoy similar interests, auto mechanics, vintage audio gear, and other esoterica. We travel together and share many of life's meaningful moments. We've also aligned over these years in the expression of our faith, and in one particular aspect, that is participation in a faith-based fraternity of healthcare providers, the Holy Unmercenaries Medical Society. It was there that I heard Tim publicly share his personal and professional journey. He did so in a way that I hadn't seen in a long time, extemporaneously using 3x5 cards to ensure that he didn't overlook any of the message he intended to convey. His story was captivating, and I've thought about it frequently ever since I heard it. When I asked him to give this lecture, he was the only invited speaker who requested some time to consider whether or not to do it, and it took about 2 weeks for him to respond. But at that point, I knew he was all in. Today, each of us will hear and interpret his words differently, framed in our own personal experience with the challenges we face in practicing surgery and the collision of elements of our lives that we can control and those that we can't control. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Timothy Patselis to the podium to deliver the 2026 Laws Lecture, Laws Praxis on Becoming Self-Actualized.
Good morning. This morning, when I opened up my email, I saw Tomothy, Pat Salas, as some of you others may have. And I didn't go into a panic mode. I thought, well, maybe this is a sign from the ancient Greeks. And let me just mull this over for a moment. And if you break down Tomothy, it's composed of two words, tomo, meaning to cut, and othi, which is intense or intensity. So instead of being an apostle, Saint Timothy, I'm a intense cutter today, and I guess that all fits. Good morning. Let's go back just one slide there for a moment. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Manny and the leadership of the Southeastern Surgical for the invitation to deliver the 12th consecutive Henry Laws lecture on medical education at the 94th gathering of the organization, and the courtesy to extend this honor to a member of now the non-academic side of the surgical aisle. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge a former member of this organization, my partner and mentor, Dr. Ed Gallagher, affectionately known as Dr. G. Dr. G passed away last July at the age 86. Attending this conference was one of his favorite activities. He often gave the opening convocation and rarely missed the start of a 6:30 poster session. When not operating or jogging, he was playing the piano in his living room or visiting prisoners at the local jail. His equanimity, affable personality, and sense of humor will be missed by those who had the honor of knowing him. We'll miss him. I joined the Southeastern back in 1996 and have attended all but 3 of the annual meetings. Here are the paper programs up to 2017, when the organization went digital, carefully curated and sized to fit in your jacket pocket. Some of us baby boomers have just been unable to pitch them. So these are the previous Henry Laws lectures you can see there. 8 of the lectures addressed residency curriculum, training methodology, performance assessment, and the role of advancing technologies. The 2015, 2020, and 22 lectures highlighted in yellow address the practicing surgeon, personal development, and team collaboration. My talk today will fall into the following category. My intent is to demonstrate how an understanding of Dr. Law's personal and professional attributes may help us become fuller versions of ourselves. The word praxis comes from a Greek word meaning a personal activity or process, followed by self-reflection, then change or correction. Surgery, which requires lifelong education, deliberate action, self-reflection, and correction, is a good example of praxis. Self-actualization is realizing your full potential to become the best version of yourself. I will also highlight events of my own journey, my personal praxis to become a more complete Dr. P. So there's my CV, and you can kind of read it. Interestingly, there's, I guess you would call it a gap year between 83 and 84. At that time, we didn't call it that. We'd call it a rejection year. I did not get into medical school the first time, and had the opportunity to do research with Dr. Jerry Mandel, who is the principal author of the Principles and Practices of Infectious Disease. and turned out to be a wonderful opportunity to get a publication or two and an opportunity to present. As a medical educator, I function as a medical student clerkship director at the Brody School of Medicine, a member of the Association of Program Directors in Surgery, co-author of the APDS surgical curriculum circa 1994. I've mentored medical students and PA students at Onslow Memorial Hospital for 25 years, and currently I work with medical students, family practice residents, and transition residents at Sampson Regional Medical Center, a critical access hospital in Eastern North Carolina, Clinton. I'll focus my talk on the following attributes, with number 4 taking a little bit of a diversion. Surgery has historically attracted intelligent, strong-minded, organized, energetic, goal-oriented learners. These attributes have served the discipline well. However, left unchecked, they become self-defeating. Fortunately, there are some complementary traits that can be nurtured to balance the hazards of an overachieving personality. Be friendly and engaging. The always smiling Dr. Laws loved to talk, share his enthusiasm, and engage his listeners. He used humor and positivity to diffuse tense situations. Observers said he never met a stranger. His display of inclusiveness and understanding made his listeners and learners feel valued. Manifest humility and empathy. Dr. Laws understood his performance limits as a surgeon, teacher, father, and friend. He was humble and expected others to act in kind. He had emotional intelligence and situational awareness, enabling him to influence others and develop consensus and implement change. Adapting to shortcomings. Though small in stature and comparable in weight, Dr. Laws eagerly played fullback in high school and then at Ole Miss, where he showed, quote, more enthusiasm than anyone. His small but mighty physique became his trademark. He embraced his limitation, deriving from it strength and inspiration. My personal epic shortcoming came at the age of 28 in 1990. During my PGY3 year, during research, I experienced several episodes of double vision, and this is while operating under a microscope with Tenno sutures, so you can imagine that does tend to affect your performance. After an MRI and a spinal tap, I was diagnosed with clinically probable multiple sclerosis. Learning to live with this new invisible illness required accepting physical limitations and finding the inner strength and fortitude to carry on. We'll talk more about that later. How well will our archetype personality adapt to surgical practice in the future? With mass adoption of AI, differentiating reality from the bot version may become impossible and maybe even irrelevant. The unbridled charge to bring AI to automation, scripting, and robots will permeate every industry, including healthcare. The human labor force will be replaced or at least reduced in many fields by machines. Direct economic impact on families will be significant, and social scientists predict we may suffer from a depersonalization crisis. Allison Pugh, in her 2024 book, presented here, offers some hope. She believes certain professions, including medicine, that require connective labor will rely heavily on empathy and spontaneity and may be difficult to replace with machines. We physicians can synthesize data, contextualize clinical situations, and patient circumstances to guide decision-making in many ways machines can't, at least for now. I encourage each one of you to keep developing your human relation skills as vigorously as your clinical and technical talents. Dr. Laws strove to advance clinical knowledge in surgical care in private practice. As Manny mentioned, he was at Alabama for 11 years, then the University of Alabama, at university practice for 8.5 years. He developed the physician assistant program as the residency program director at Caraway Methodist Hospital for 18 years. During the 1980s, he developed one of the first laparoscopic lab practicums in conjunction with the Auburn Veterinary School. He thrived in all these arenas, mentoring along the way. These institutional transitions, or as I call them, pivots, sustained his intellectual vigor and prospects for renewed personal and professional growth. I believe these pivots were the result of personal choices and not administrative reassignments. Pivoting, when all seems to be just fine where you are, requires a growth rather than fixed mindset, open to new ideas and willingness to take detours, even perhaps some calculated risk. Walter Porres, former chairman of the Department of Surgery at ECU, would tell the residents to reinvent themselves every 7 years. Though the duration is somewhat arbitrary, his advice to consider changing course is noteworthy. Personally, I've made several professional pivots. After 4 years as a trauma service attending at ECU, I joined a broad-based general surgery practice in Jacksonville, North Carolina. During this 25 years, I spearheaded the trauma response team, the palliative care team, the wound center, and the surgicals program. In 2023, I chose to leave Onslow Memorial Hospital and practice exclusively acute care surgery at a critical access hospital. Professional assessment, reassessment, family dynamics, and health priorities informed this decision. It was my choice, not predetermined. Looking back, I adopted the growth mindset, moved out of my comfort zone, and faced my next chapter with enthusiasm and curiosity. Maintaining intellectual vigor and optimal self-performance requires time, planning. Historically, self-study and textbook reading and conference attendance have fulfilled these needs. Today, we have additional resources such as remote learning, simulation training, and web-based support groups. While these technologies bring more modalities to a wider audience, they do not replace the unique value of learn by doing. Quite simply, the challenge to make the decision to operate, often with an incomplete data set and limited time, cannot be simulated virtually. Staying busy clinically, including the operating room, and maintaining your technical skills promotes timely and accurate decision-making. In Spence Taylor's 2015 Laws lecture, he discussed the concept taught in conscientious training courses that posits the majority of the people, the majority of the time, are reactive, ego protective, reluctant to consider new information or perspectives, and prioritize validation over self-discovery. They exhibit low self and situational awareness. Conversely, a minority of people exhibit openness, learning feedback, and curiosity and a commitment to learning. So here's my only technical diagram of the talk. You see the above line, below the line. Folks who want to stay above the line endeavor to strive to improve themselves and those around them. A growth mindset, receptive to thinking laterally when needed, and pivoting professionally may help us respond to life's variables in a constructive manner. Dr. Laws loved to teach. Beyond leading the PA program and Caraway Methodist General Surgery programs, he shepherded hundreds of surgeons from around the U.S. and overseas to his minimally invasive skills laboratory in Birmingham, sharing his enthusiasm for the laparoscopic revolution. He was literally on the cutting edge of this transformation. He wrote many articles and spoke at many regional and national meetings about the staying power of the new technology, another great example of his growth mindset. I think it was at at the surgical meetings, though, just discussing papers and posters with the residents and medical students that he most enjoyed. I want to share with you a unique quality of Dr. Laws, which was mentoring of women and his advocacy for them. In the 1980s, he brought to Caraway Medical, the residency program, its first female intern. This is Dr. Allen. She currently practices PM&R in Wilmington, North Carolina. In the 1980s, her uncle was a cardiothoracic surgeon in Birmingham, was a colleague of Dr. Laws, and Dr. Laws encouraged Dr. Allen to apply to the program, which she did, and she was accepted. And Dr. Allen informed me that Dr. Laws was not only a tremendous inspiration in her training there for the 1 year, however, also helped guide her with her career decisions. During her intern year, there was only one male doctor's locker room, so Joanne had to use the female nurse's locker room to change. One benefit was learning operating room culture and how to survive as a PGY1. The following year, Dr. Laws recruited the first female trauma surgeon, another first for the Caraway surgical faculty, who also found herself changing in the female locker room. Unsettled by this disparity, Dr. Laws convinced the hospital to construct a female physician's locker room. Here's the Methodist Medical Center, as it was once one of the busiest hospitals in the state. I presume the female doctor's lounge and locker room were still there until it was demolished in 2022. In 1989, as a PGY2 at East Carolina, Pitt County Memorial Hospital, as it was called, didn't have a trauma service. So the second-year residents were sent to the Washington Hospital Center for 2 months. There I observed a female trauma fellow of short stature roll a behemoth ultrasound machine into the trauma bay for every blunt and penetrating trauma alert. I was intrigued, but too timid to take a second look, and the other surgeons didn't see value of trauma bedside ultrasonography, considering they had just witnessed the disappearance of the DPL by CT scanning. Resolute, this fellow correlated her clinical and ultrasonographic observations, and her seminal work became the template for the FAST exam, a swift, reproducible, harmless diagnostic procedure that has revolutionized bedside trauma diagnosis around the world. So here's Grace and myself a few years ago. Dr. Riziki has has mentored countless medical students, residents, and attendings in point-of-care ultrasound. She's held multiple leadership positions in regional and national organizations, including this one, and has been a strong advocate for women. Dr. Riziki piqued my interest in ultrasound, and I incorporated it in my breast and thyroid practice while I was in private practice. A second female mentor was Dr. Beth Foyle. Dr. Foyle was the first female surgery resident, fellowship-trained trauma attending, and clinical faculty at ECU, Department of Surgery. She was raised in a Moravian household in Western North Carolina. Her father was a minister. She broke the mold, chose medicine, graduated with the first medical school class at ECU. Beth was opinionated, direct, creative, unafraid to challenge the fixed mindset. She supported residents, eager to come to their defense during M&M and go out on a limb to salvage at-risk residents when other attendings were had written them off. She held annual Christmas parties at our horse barn, inviting staff, residents, and students. She gave upper level residents the opportunity to teach junior residents in selected cases and captured these on film. So again, context, 1990. Uh, this is myself on the left, and Dr. Wes Marchman, who was a PGY4 at the time, on the right, performing a mastectomy. To this day, whenever I'm taking intraoperative photos, I think about Dr. Foyle and her single reflex camera, 35 millimeter, strapped around her neck. Sadly, she died young at age 51. Her legacy lives on in the minds, hearts of the many students and residents she guided. Third mentor I'd like to discuss is Dr. Lundsey Delano Britt, former president of this organization, the American College, chairman at at EVMS, now part of Old Dominion University, pioneer of acute care surgery, spokesman for the House of Surgery, who supported me as a medical student and young surgeon. Here we are back in 2004. Dr. Britt was also very active in civic activities, philanthropy, educational initiatives outside of medicine. He demonstrated his willingness to challenge the fixed mindset by breaking down the racial barrier at the Norfolk Yacht and Country Club, opening the doors to African Americans, and that was 34 years ago. Paying it forward, I had the opportunity to bring on the first female physician assistant at Onslow Memorial Hospital Surgery Department. This is Ashley Grogan. She was still in training at EVMS, about to get married and yet to pass her licensing exam. Reluctantly, my partners reconsidered my recommendation. We employed her. She was a quick learner, excellent talent, diffused interpersonal issues effectively, and became a wise clinician and mother of 3. I just learned she's going to be leaving Eastern North Carolina and relocating to the Sunshine State, and we wish her well. Here's a black and white photo many decades later of myself and Ashley's head to the camera. And unbeknownst to me, my youngest daughter somehow acquired that photo and had a visual arts colleague of hers sketch this rendition out of chalk in about 5 minutes and gave it to me as a birthday gift. So, excuse me, a Christmas gift. So don't write your kids off. You never know how they're going to surprise you. Okay. So, when diagnosed with a chronic visible illness that has no cure, one begins to think very seriously about physical losses, relationships, and even one's mortality. So, it may even prompt you to reconsider your career. Given the cultural dynamics of surgical departments 36 years ago and limited understanding of chronic health conditions, speculation circulated about my continuation in the program. So here we are with my first MRI, again, 1990, and believe it or not, the let's say, imaging quality hasn't changed all that much in 36 years when it comes to looking at white matter and parts of the central nervous system. But this is a lesion of active demyelination in my right frontal periventricular white matter. And the same scan a little bit further down and a little more subtle to pick up on is a midbrain lesion on the left side. I saw several neurologists at that time, locally as well as regionally. One of them was Dr. Tom Pellegrino, who's a neurologist at EVMS. His father was the renowned medical ethicist, Edmund Pellegrino from Georgetown. Tom was an amazing teacher, humanitarian. I saw him and he said, yes, you probably have MS. Didn't discourage me from leaving the program. Sadly, he died at his prime in 2011. He requested that trees be planted in his memory. So with the diagnosis of clinically probable MS, beyond short courses of therapy, there wasn't anything long-term. I hunkered down for the next 3 years and endured several more relapses with sensory and motor deficits. In 1991, this is a MRI, again, showing a lesion, a little bit hard to pick up on, but at C2, C3, and I had significant deficit in my right hand, which was right hand dominant. You know, hard to throw things away. Here's a sample of my handwriting in 1991. So except for the occasional breaks from call duty, I plowed on, completed the rotations, index cases. Here I am over here standing with the faculty because I was late, but this is all of us in 1993, faculty and house staff. Somehow I managed to score the highest in-service exam that year. Prior to the residency, I was attracted to plastic surgery, and I understood this would require several more years of training. As an undergraduate in 1982, I was sent to a pre-med advisor, Dr. Edlick, who's a science prodigy from New York, trained under Owen Wangenstein, specialized in plastic surgery, and joined the UVA faculty, instrumental in developing the emergency response system, trauma burn center, insights into wound healing, skin adhesives. At my first meeting with him in '82, he suggested, after hearing my GPA, I should think about something other than medicine. 11 years later, in 1993, as a PGY5 interviewing in plastic surgery at UVA, the fellows discouraged me from seeing him because one professor, Dr. Edlick, wasn't active anymore clinically. He was in a wheelchair. He had MS, and I did not know that. Went on with the interview. I saw him, and we discussed my situation, and he asked me, "Why are you doing this?" And at that moment, I was speechless. He got out of his wheelchair, and he gave me the hug of peace, or excuse me, the hug of presence, and this is it. And you'll see the red arrow denoting the arms separated by about a foot. So this is a hug conveying emotional support, comfort, and safety. I got the fellowship, however, several months later during my chief year, had more flare-ups, and we decided to forgo the fellowship and stay at ECU and join the trauma service. Dr. Edlick continued to lecture, publish, and travel for 25 years out of a wheelchair, advocating for the disabled community and encourage self-awareness. In 2008, unsolicited, he gave me this book. We had never communicated after that interview. Over here on the right side, he writes, "To Tim Patselis, this is my quest." He passed in 2014. In the 36 years since my diagnosis, there's been a lot of learning about the pathogenesis, progression, and treatment of MS. In addition to lifestyle modification, disease-modifying agents are now available via oral, sub-Q, and intravenous routes to enable us to live longer with fewer relapses. My quest continues. A couple of years ago, I came across this book, The Face Laughs When the Brain Cries. This is written by Stephen Hauser, who's the neuroimmunologist, now the director of neurosciences at UCSF. And he was instrumental in discovering several of the monoclonal antibodies used to treat immune disorders, including MS. His commitment to understanding the mechanisms of myelin degeneration shifted the emphasis from anti-T cell therapy to anti-B cell therapy. And one such drug, Ocrevus, is probably the most effective drug on the market. Over the last 18 years, I've been on 2 of these agents. Coupled with dietary discretion, regular exercise, and rest, I've maintained a high level of function. Our legacy is what we leave behind when we're gone: memories, impact on others, physical items, donations. In addition to his clinical impact, Dr. Law left the legacy, an unusual one, where he would bring a shovel and an acorn from his personal collection and plant it at gatherings of family and friends. What a display of creative energy. One wonders how many resident acorns have matured to provide shade and awe and even more acorns. Being of Greek descent, it's hard to resist all these references, but here's a quote believed to be attributed to Greeks. Dr. Law spent time and effort nurturing a mission that is planting trees that will accrue to future generations with no direct benefit to himself. This unselfish act with downstream impact reflects the visionary and kindness of a uniquely gifted man. Kindness, the genuine concern and care for others' well-being expressed through selfless acts, including self-care, helpfulness, and displays of goodwill. The contemporary fiction writer George Sanders believes, in the end, when everything else goes away, all that's left is your reputation. Though hard to accept, as time passes, we all become self-diminishing. Our greatest clinicians, surgeons, teachers will be surpassed by the next generation of higher performers. While we're still alive, if we acquire enough self-awareness to acknowledge we will not be perfect and the personal losses are inevitable, then we can work hard and focus on kindness while we still have time. Dr. Law's acorn planting and kindness are generating tremendous ripple effects. Manning, I think I'm going to exceed my time, but we're getting there. Dr. Walter Pori is here, the pioneer bariatric metabolic surgeon, also leaves a legacy of expertise, education, and trees. Over 35 years ago, he successfully rooted several sprigs from the tree of Hippocrates at the Library of Medicine at the National Institutes of Health in DC. And that tree, which was planted in 1966, was an offspring of the original tree on the island of Kos, which was the birthplace of Hippocrates and the seat of Western medical education. Dr. Pori's granddaughter trees, if you will, now graces Deep Sun Farm and the Brody School of Medicine. one of those trees succumbed to disease and the wood was harvested. And now we've had the opportunity to acquire some of that wood. And with the assistance of a craftsman and very kind individual from Clinton, North Carolina, um, we've crafted a gavel from that wood. And the Department of Surgery at East Carolina University, myself and Dr. Zervos would like to bequeath this to the Southeastern Surgical, not to replace the original, but to complement it. Thank you, Manny. I'm going to mention a few of the mentors. This is John Matroni, a remarkable legacy, still kicking, my Scoutmaster, influencer, still leading his original troop since the early 70s, with many of his youth attaining the rank of Eagle, including myself. My parents. The other mentors in my life, first generation Greek Americans. They fulfilled the dream of their refugee immigrant parents. They raised 3 kids, 9 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren. Okay. If you're fortunate to have kids, they can be wonderful. They can surprise you and refuel you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to mentor them, their friends, and other members of that generation. So I got next generation. So this is my grandson. So let's let them sit, then stand on our shoulders so they can climb higher than us. As I wrap up, I'd like to share 2 other thoughts. The first is the impact of luck, the good kind, the chance that something favorable happens when not anticipated. Because of its random nature, we can't plan for it, but it's out there along with hope, faith, caring, and love. We've all seen it in action, so I'd recommend the following. Apply yourself with great intention, effort, and frequency. Stay optimistic. Chances are in your favor. Luck will follow you. And lastly, develop an outside interest. And we heard that mentioned several times during this conference. A hobby that's accessible, appealing, and affordable, that affords you a break from your demanding professional routine. Many self-actualized physicians have found inspiration and balance from nurturing an outside interest. It's a great, safe way to clear your mind, rest, and go back into the fray. I hope I've inspired you to broaden your surgical personality, intellectual curiosity, mentorship, and strive to become the best version of yourself. I'm confident your legacy will follow in kind. As Manny mentioned, we've developed a wonderful, supportive relationship. Manny was has been very kind and inclusive and non-judgmental. We have a lot of overlap in our extracurricular activities, and we've been great running buddies. So again, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to share the podium and listen. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to present at this meeting. Thanks, Manny.
Thank you, Tim, as usual. Exceeds expectations, doesn't suck. Uh, Picture time, put this away. You burn it.
You're doing great.
Okay, we're gonna roll right into the next session, which is the